Aristotle once said, "Give me a child until he's 7, and I'll show you the man." So let's see how our childhood shapes our upbringing.
Hello class, I'm Shireen.
I'm Ariana.
I'm Denai.
And today we're making a video on confidence and mindset. So I will get started. I'll ask you each of you a bit about your childhood and how you grow up. So Ariana, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Greece, in Athens. Very tight family. Family was always very core. Athens is a pretty open and chill type of society. So it was very not very stress free, I would say, especially for as I was growing up. So I guess that's pretty important. That it was a very stress free and chill type of childhood. Everybody kind of knows each other. Neighborhood. It's a very neighborhoody. You know who's living above you or below you or next to you, and there's a strong community. And I have a sister who's a year older than me.
Oh, that's so nice to have a sister that's about almost your age. Yeah. What about you?
I also grew up in Greece. The same about the society and everything. I have a pretty big family, which we're very bonded with. I also have a brother that's 1 year younger, and cousins that I'm very close to that are again quite close to my age. So yeah, my childhood was quite chill. Always felt very safe. I was able to talk to my parents or my aunts about different stuff, and we were very open generally. I mean, we still are. Yeah, I mean, it was a nice I don't know, place to grow up in a chill. Yeah.
Did you guys know each other when you were a kid? Were you in the same neighborhood?
We were
lived next to each other.
Yeah, next to each other. But we met each other when she came to my school.
Yes.
I think, or we knew of each other when she came.
Is this an enemies to lover type of story?
No, it's more boring than that. It's we got to know each other during end of middle school, beginning of high school.
Yeah.
When we both switched from the old Greek program to the international baccalaureate program. And we became really good friends, and we would walk back from school together because we lived close to each other.
Go to the gym.
Go to the gym, and party together, go to the islands, the classics.
Yeah. That's so nice, wow. So I grew up in Bangladesh. I did not grow up in Athens. I didn't know. And actually I lived there until I was 9 years old, and life there is so chaotic. Because there's so much traffic, you're in traffic for 3 hours just to get to school, and the population is at least 1 billion or 2 billion, and the size of the land is about New York, even smaller.
It's very densely
It's
populated.
very densely populated, yeah. So it was very crowded, but I think I had cousins that I was close to because my brother is 18 years older than me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I had cousins that I grew up with, but they were also 14 years older than me, So I was the youngest one in the family. But I spent a lot of time with my cousins. I went to a school that focused and emphasized arts a lot, so I did a lot of dancing, acting, singing. And I was attached to my mom. I always wanted to be with my mom.
How did it feel to be the younger? Do you think that has influenced you somehow?
Yeah, so I think my brother and I are so different. He was the crazy one. Party, drugs, he will explore anything and everything. And he would be the one worrying my parents, but since I was so young, I think their anxiety towards my brother would be inflicted on me. So I felt I have to be the good one, But at the same time, I think I grew up with this mindset that I'm gonna experiment with life, but I'm not gonna be crazy like him. I'm gonna find my own limits, Yeah. Yeah. So
I had the exact opposite because I'm the oldest from my sibling and my cousins, and it's actually been the same pressure because I always felt I had to be very good to set an example for everyone else, and I had not pressure a lot of not actual pressure, but I made myself feel like I need to be like very good to like, you know, set an example and be like, I don't know, I always had like this kind of good child syndrome. So I feel like being also the eldest child, like from the family, like also had an impact on that.
Mm.
But yeah.
Yeah. You were the younger child, right?
Yeah, I think I really relate to your experience, Irene, in terms of like my sister is very crazy and always would be like, not the bad child, but like the child on the spotlight that was too crazy and everybody was worrying about, and I always was the, you know, the great child, like example of like what the child should be in terms of more quiet and more like mature.
Yeah.
I think genetically probably I was like more like, I don't want to say down to earth, but like more chill and more in touch with my goals and my ambitions. But I think that also seeing that extreme from my sister made me even more comfortable in like, you know, chilling with adults and like hearing their conversations and being interested in that and like leaving the playground and like being with like older people to like learn from them. So I definitely think that influenced me. I think that like siblings really influence like one another.
Do you feel like, I feel like older siblings influence younger siblings maybe more because it's more like younger siblings kind of take them as an example. Like I feel like my brother has influenced me, but not to the level that I would say she like helped shape my character or something.
I don't know if I would make a generalization like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've been affected by my sister in like very explicit ways. I think all of it was very implicit. Like I don't think I would like see her and like think, oh, I shouldn't be like that. But I think that implicitly I could think like, you know, it's good to be a bit more down to earth, not go crazy.
Describe yourself like as a child, like what would you, like how would you describe it?
Tough child, in the sense that I wouldn't study that much. I was very much of a rebel. And I think that growing up, like when I was in elementary school, I looked very much like a boy. And my sister like has like blonde hair and like blue eyes. So I've like always felt like the ugly one. So I think that like definitely had influenced me when I was really young. And that made me very competitive. Because I figured that, okay, like what if I excel in different things, since maybe like I'm not like that pretty or whatnot, according to whatever standard I was following. So I think that in middle school and even from like the end of elementary school, when you like start having more of like an idea of a self, I was like ultra competitive. That being like sports, that being school, I suddenly became like super good at school. But I would take it to the extreme. Like success was like, you had to be like top of the top type of person. And I think that I had that for a long time. High school still, I was very much like that. And only when I came to the US and I kind of was really much on my own and very independent, didn't have my family with me, and I just had to like stand on my own feet. I did a lot of like self-reflection, and I started, and I think that also comes with like adulthood. I think that as a teenager, everything is like very egocentric. You see everything through the lens of yourself, and then coming here and like being independent, I took a step back and I spent much more time reflecting on what makes me happy, and I wanted to build more fruitful and like genuine relationships. So I made that more of my passion rather than, you know, having to be super competitive and like everywhere and stuff like that.
I mean, I would say I resonate with that because I feel like colorism is a really big issue in like a lot of like South Asian countries and other parts of the world. And my brother, he like basically looked like a white person, but I was like tanner than my brother. So I feel like the society would always compare us. Like he would be the pretty one, or he would be the naturally smarter like child, right? And so I think it made me also want to be like competitive or like stand out in my own ways because I felt like I was being like living in his shadow somehow. Even though I can tell like name like 10 different things that I was like, oh, this person isn't doing great, like good of a job. But then in school, I think I like also like hated studying. I did not want to study. But I think like I think naturally somehow I did get good grades, and then eventually I think my teachers would push me towards the arts a lot. So I would started like writing songs. I would like like perform on like school like competitions and stuff. So I think like I flourished in the arts because that environment was created in school, and I had an outlet to be creative some way. Yeah.
For me, I would say that I was kind of like, I was a very creative child, a bit like, I had my tough moments, I feel like it wasn't the easiest, but not like, I don't know, I didn't cause that much trouble. I feel like I always had this creative outlet of people who would guide me to like more creative things, and I really liked that, so I could like really occupy myself by doing like whatever creative. And yeah, I from a young age I feel like I made like kind of good friendships, so I always felt like I had like someone like kind of next to me, and I also felt that with my cousins, so I had like very like people that I always felt like I was taken care of, and like I felt like a lot of love from my family, which is, for me, I feel like it's very important. And I feel like that like made me able to also give a lot of love. So I was very like kind of like affectionate, like more kind of like that. Also very, how is it called? Fragile? Yeah, like fragile. Yeah. Like to the point that like my grandpa was getting worried that how am I gonna grow up and be that fragile and like not have my heart broken and stuff like that. But yeah. But yeah, I don't know, like I feel like I wasn't very competitive because I always felt like I'm doing my thing. I did ballet, which kind of influenced my mindset for like more like body image issues and stuff like that. And there maybe I was a bit more competitive because like I remember thinking that I want to be the favorite, like the teacher's favorite and stuff like that, but not in the sense that I need to be better than the like kind of like be better than everyone else, more in the sense that I was craving like the attention of like either the teacher or adults or like the approval more. Yeah, so
do you feel like you guys were like felt confident when you were like in elementary school when you were a kid, or do you feel like you were more introverted and shy? Because like for me, even though I was doing a lot of creative things, I think internally I was just very shy. Like I would like, I love sitting in the front of the class, but like I still would hide behind my mom type of shy. Like there was this like duality that I lived in, but I don't know what it was like for you guys.
For me, I always had like, I wasn't confident when it came to like older kids because I never like had experienced older kids. So like if you told me go talk to an older kid, I would like not be able to do that. I was confident in the sense that I wouldn't mind really like talking to people like my age and like younger, and I was very like bossy, so I always like kind of organized like what the others are gonna do, or like was standing up and talking about like I don't know whatever. So like I always felt in that way confident, and because I also had the creative aspect, I felt confident in my skills on that area. Yeah, and actually like I'm not sure if like children generally reflect, but I don't think that I ever reflected on like, oh, like am I being more shy or not? Yeah. Like, and now I can say these things that I'm saying, but I'm not sure because I'm not sure what exactly I experienced. Like I don't remember how I thought in that age, so I can't really say like, oh, I was very confident and I was like, yeah. I remember that like with older kids, like I always like was very scared, like, and I had like a bit of like, I got like, you know, how older kids are more like kind of sassy towards younger ones, so when I received that I was like super scared after. But like I remember like with the kids from my age, or like especially with girls, I felt more comfortable than with guys. I feel like I was like kind of like bossy and like chill and like yeah, I don't know. But also like from ballet, I also like I always like that was an aspect where I didn't feel the most confidence. Like I felt that I felt confidence in my skills, and I think I always had that, but like not as much in my maybe appearance and in my I don't know, like interactions with others. Yeah.
I think for me, I don't know why and how, but I always like would chill with adults. So I think that made me really confident. And I would always like try to like say something smart to like get their attention, or like an innuendo, and then like I would like, I remember we would have like the children's like table and then the adults table, and I would always try to like chill with the adults, and like I was like 6 and I would say something probably very silly about politics, but I would still say it. And even when like I did a lot of like dancing, and I did a lot of like sports, and I remember even during dance class we would be like 20 kids, and I would always like want to go and like chat with the professor or with like the dance teacher, and like say something that makes me look older. And I wanted to feel older and be perceived as older. So I think that I grew up being very extroverted. Like I like talking to people, I like making them laugh, I like learning from them. And I think that by talking to adults and like seeing that they value me, they find me like, I guess, interesting, that gave me a lot of validation, which made me even more confident. So I think I was lucky in that respect. And I think that I had a really good relationship, I still do, with my mom. And she's really extroverted, like very, to the extent that you're like, okay, something maybe wrong. But seeing that normalized being confident, and it made it seem as the norm. So it was very easy for me to like replicate it and you know, copy it and make it a part of me. And confidence is an ongoing like journey. I think you can be confident in like sharing your thoughts, and still as you're like debating and like, you know, sounding so smart and like confident, you're like, your hands are sweaty, or you're like, you know, you're feeling your like stomach going all crazy. So I think confidence is something that you always work with, and you may be confident, but you may still have a lot of self-doubt. Like you may be projecting, but you still may, you know, not be super certain about what you're saying. I think it's a lot about, I don't know what it is about, but I think it has to do with how you perceive yourself. I think it has to do with how you perceive by others. Like if you see that they validate what you say, or if they find you smart, you continue, you go on. And I do think it has to do with how you grew up, for sure.
I think there's also like different levels. There's like, for me in my head, there's like an overall confidence of like each person, and then confidence in different aspects. Like, I don't know, in your skills and your appearance and your interactions with others. Like, I feel like there's a degree of confidence in each of these aspects that you're always like kind of aware of like you work on, or like, you know, yeah. Also like very, it reminded the adult part reminded me kind of me, not the fact that I was kind of like scared of adults, like some adults, but like I remember like I always had like questions, and like I really wanted to learn stuff as a child, and like I think that like being able to question things, and yeah, like that was something that like I remember very intensely. And also like in my family I had like women figures that were very like extroverted and confident, and like shared their thoughts and were very loud. Greek people are very loud. So like, I hear her all the time. Yeah. So like I always took that kind of as an example. Like I never experienced like, oh, I'm a girl, I have to be more like, you know.
That's interesting, because for me, like looking back and kind of like trying to reflect, I think like for some reason, like when I was like talking to adults and like getting that validation, and like also like fun, like being playful and like having fun, I always would like typically turn to men, to like older men rather than like women.
Oh.
So I don't know if that was me like thinking when I was really young.
But
That-
that's like you have to have a level of confidence to go talk to an older man when you're a 6-year-old.
Fair. I don't know how that came along.
Maybe it's genetics.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's in your genes, but
But that made me think, like, I don't know if I was a 6-year-old, I was seeing societal, you know, like
Right.
biases and stereotypes, or like, oh, men are like typically considered more confident, so I should go talk to them. I don't know if it was that, or if it just happened to be the case that, I don't know, I interacted more with men because
right.
more men happened to like come to our household, whatever. Like maybe my parents had more like male friends.
Were you drawn to them because they were confident, or because they seemed like they had more knowledge?
Probably both. Yeah.
Like what made you want to talk to them? Like was it like, oh, I want to say something profound, or is it more like, oh, I think you have something that I can learn from, or like
It was more the I want to say something profound, which doesn't make me look super good, right?
I mean, if you have the confidence to go up to a male, like a 50-year-old guy, and tell them something profound when you're 6,
I would feel so shy. Like
Same.
with my brother's
Like, I would-
friends, I would like
God,
hide, you
that's.
know?
I think the brother's friends is the worst.
It really
Like you cannot talk to them. Like I would never. Yeah, I don't know.
But okay. I'm fast forwarding to I guess more like college years, like now. I feel like a lot of people deal with so many insecurities, so many worries, right? Is there something that you can think of that you feel like not super secure about, and you're like still like working through it, and like you're like, okay, I need to build my confidence in this area of my life, and like how are you going about it?
So, for me, I've been like through ups and downs, even like through the years in my like, I feel like in areas that I don't work on as much, like after like a few years, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm not that confident in that area. So like for me, I've been like always not very confident with my body, and I've been through ups and downs with that. But I feel like now I've been in a place where I'm more accepting and more like loving towards that, and like I feel like that I worked through that by first of all like exercising and making it a part of my routine, because it makes me feel like stronger and like more in control. I'm very bad with like dieting and all that, so like after an age I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do
Right.
diets and stuff like that. Like it's not for me. It makes me feel less confident if I even start thinking that I have to like start a diet or whatever. So like I feel like learning what works best for you and for your body, for yourself, and also like trying to even like say like stuff to yourself that are less not like you know bad, like harming or whatever. I think that may help me in that area, and also like kind of like because I always like saw through the eyes of like I think more like my family, how they perceived me and like how they saw me and like my body and all that, and I like kind of like taking that to a smaller scale and realizing, like making some realizations of why I have certain like thought patterns and why I'm led to believe that or that, and like kind of debunking what's behind some of my thoughts made me realize that like this is so stupid. And yeah, so that's one area that I've had like ups and downs. I've also like I've always been like kind of confident with my skills, but this last year, because it's my last year, so I've been applying for jobs, and like it plays with your confidence so much, and I feel like it's been like I haven't had the best experience at that. I'm not sure, like I'm trying to work on it through like talking to others and like talking to a certain person that like helps me with, you know, like that, and kind of through finding things that make me happy, or like kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I honestly like I'm still working through that, so I can't really tell you how I manage that, but it's an area that like I was always confident in that, and then like this year it's like, you know, it's um yeah, I think that's what I can think of for now.
Yeah. I think for me, in terms of things that I'm working on confidence-wise, I think a lot has to do with feeling confident on what I know. I think that we're trained and like to know a bunch of stuff, to always like know things and be on top of like the news and on top of school, that we have very like general and broad knowledge that many times I feel like I don't go super deep into things. So I feel very very like vulnerable when it comes to, okay, like, can I speak to this that I learned? Do I really understand it to its roots? Because I think we have so much information, so easy to access it, that yeah, I can write you like a great essay, but many times I like reflect back and I'm like, okay, but am I confident that I learned something today that is profound and real and tangible, and that I can you know, teach it to someone else? And I think that a lot of it comes also from my degree. I think that econ is really interesting, but I think that it's also very easy to not go very deep with it. So I had a lot of insecurities in terms of, am I studying something that is making me smarter or like a better person or like a better student? And I think I've tried to like do things to find that tangible like effect of what I'm studying. Like I'm TAing, which means I really need to like teach someone else something, so I'm kind of have to hold myself accountable to it. Or I'm tutoring, but I think my relationship with how I learn and how deep I go.
I had been working on recently, or like I thought I was really insecure about, was that, am I smart enough, right? But then I realized in college that it's deeper than that. There are layers to that thought. And one layer is that I didn't feel comfortable enough to have disputes with people. I realized that growing up, my mom and I, we moved a lot throughout like the United States. And in order to move into a new place and live there, you need to be adaptable. And you need to be complacent to an extent, right? Because the less dispute you have, the less attention you draw to yourself, the better you are at adapting into these new environments. So I felt like I was turning myself into like a sphere ball where I had no edges. I will agree with anyone and everyone, whether I agree with it or not. And like I would not have an ability to say like, oh, I disagree with you. Not because I didn't think of it, but it's more like I just thought that's the best way to live in a harmonious society, right? But now when you come to college, you're like, think critically, think critically. They want you to have dispute. But how do you do that when your whole life you've lived it without disputing anyone? So I think that when people would ask, like, can you speak up? Do you have a say in this topic? I wouldn't, because I was so trained to not think anything differently than the people around me. And I think oftentimes when I did have thoughts that were different, I kept it to myself. I didn't have the ability to articulate it to someone else. So once I realized that, I've started to take more steps to like have, not disputes with people, but have the ability to say like, oh, I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I don't think this is like the case. And I could be like, oh, I'm still learning about this, but this is why I have this view, you know? So that nuanced thinking. Yeah, I also realized that I had like chronic anxiety. Like I think earlier you guys mentioned like your hands getting sweaty and like you feel that way like when you're on stage, let's say. But I felt that 24/7. But I didn't know that I had that until I didn't, right? Like until like I went to therapy and I talked about it and I realized that, oh, this is not how people live their lives. And like when I was in school, I was like, oh, I'm getting good grades, but I don't feel like I'm learning anything. Because when I was learning, I was petrified. Like even in the classroom, I didn't feel like I deserved to say anything or I deserved to be here because I felt so like anxious the whole time. It felt horrible, right? But then when I would get a good grade, I'm like, I didn't do this. I don't know, maybe God did it. Maybe it's just they gave me the wrong grade. But I always felt like I was somewhere in between, like, why am I doing well, but I don't feel good inside. So now that my anxiety has kind of like literally wiped out of my life, which is so
That's
good,
great.
I feel like I'm able to know my abilities and where I lack. Like I didn't have that clarity before. So yeah.
And what do you think was the moment, like, well, I understand that it's probably a journey, that you like reflect on it and build that self-confidence, but do you think there was a moment that made you like realize that, oh, like,
Yeah.
you know, like I can do something right now to change this?
Right. I think like for this semester, like I found like the best therapist. Like she's a Barnard alum, and I've been like not talking to her every week. And I'm like, when I go to therapy, it's like I'm going to war. Like I'm like I have 45 minutes, and every minute counts. So I'm gonna like use the entire time, right? And so she's been like helping me figure out what happened in my childhood that shapes my thought pattern today. So like if I feel so anxious, who did I get it from? And why did they project it onto me? And once I realized that the thoughts and feelings that I have is a pattern of everything I've experienced in my life, and it might not be my own, I can be like, okay, I don't need this anymore. I don't need to be so anxious because it was not, I wasn't born like this, right? So like for me, it was like, oh, I got my anxiety from my mom. I understand why she had it, but I also understand why I no longer need to feel it. Yeah. So
That's really powerful.
It's very interesting. I also like the thing that you said about debating and like disputing. I also have that a lot, and I feel like for me it's more derived from like me not feeling confident with my memory, because many times I'm like, do I remember the facts correctly? Like, did I actually read it? Like, and because I'm not sure, when like I'm not sure about the facts, I'm not gonna go into a dispute because I'm like, wait, I'm not like 100% confident about my knowledge, so I'm not gonna like, yeah. So I always felt like I didn't dispute topics as much and like get into discussions for like things that I don't know like 100%, because then I'm like or like things that I haven't experienced or like have some knowledge but like limited. And I feel like it's a very like it's a skill to have, to just have the confidence and go out there and like say stuff that are a bit controversial on topics that you're not 100% sure about. And I feel like many people like do it and like they engage in topics that they have like some facts and they just say them, and then you're like, oh, he's very smart, or like she's very smart. But then it's like, you know, like just a good memory thing and a good, yeah. So like not like shaming anyone at all, like just saying that I feel like I lack the confidence in that because I'm not confident in my memory enough to like go into yeah. But also what you said about debunking like what is something that you've acquired from other people. This is kind of crazy, but like I once had a dream, and I don't know why, but like I woke up from this dream, and then everything about like how I had some things projected on me, and I like because okay, so let me take it from the beginning. Like I always had a certain relationship with my dad, also especially like as I grew up, like later in life, like right now, and like yeah, before whatever. But like I always like I didn't understand why I had this attitude towards him, because I was always kind of like more more setting my boundaries and more like disputing what he says, and like more like I don't know, more like intense towards him. And then I woke up from this dream and I realized how my behavior, like I had internalized things like behaviors of others that I saw on him, and that I was kind of internalizing these behaviors and like projecting it to him, but it didn't have to do with him at all. So like yeah, I feel like this is very important, kind of understanding like where things come from in your life and what is you and what is like the experiences of other people just projected in you.
That dream thing was crazy.
It was, I literally like I saw everything, and then I woke up and I was like, what? Yeah, I don't know how. But also like on that, I feel like timing is very important in your life. Not like timing that like being ready to perceive things in certain ways, and being ready to like even like with the smaller things, like I don't know, feeling ready to get a job, and that's when you're gonna get it. Like, you know, like kind of building yourself to get somewhere, and then when you get there, you're gonna get the things that you want to get. But like if you're not there, you're not gonna get things because they're not right for you when you're not there. I don't know if that makes
So
sense.
it's like being open to receiving something only
Yeah.
when you're ready.
Yeah, like being open all the time, but like I feel like you will actually receive it when you're ready. So like getting yourself ready is as important as like, you know, like I don't know,
Yeah.
receiving the thing that you're. Yeah.
I mean, I think you touched upon like dreams, you touched upon like, you know,
Yeah.
like timing, and I think like in our class, like we talk a lot about religion and like how religion can be a way for people to feel more confident or have like a sense of purpose. So I was curious like for you guys, like whether you believe in spirituality, religion, or higher power or nothing at all, like how does that play into your self-perception or the way you carry out your life?
Personally, I believe in spirituality, and it's kind of weird because I come from a like Christian Orthodox like background, like
Yeah.
but my family was also like always like more not into spirituality as we know it, like not the new like day of spirituality is cool, like just the beliefs that I took from them and like that now makes sense in my head are the beliefs of that I align more with spirituality. I've always like had like experienced the value of meditation and the value of like also guided meditation for me has been very, very helpful, and like either like getting like thinking about things and like meditating like with thoughts, like not for me it's not like I don't know, it brings me like a confidence that I have a mechanism to control myself and my thoughts. That's how I feel like it's helped me. And I mean, having certain beliefs and having like, I believe in higher powers, not especially in the sense that, not exactly in the sense that, oh, like God guides your every move, or like, you know, like, I don't know, I'm more like, I have a belief that things will fall into place. You can ask for things and maybe they'll come into your life when you're ready for that. And like I'm very big in like asking for guidance and things that you're unsure of. And I like for me like when I was applying for unis, I had like this picture of myself being in a certain uni, and I like really like I was like, okay, this is probably what I'm gonna do. And then like I remember like I applied to like a better uni than that, and I was like, okay, like I don't think I'm gonna get in, but if I get in, like good. And then I got in, and then I wasn't sure whether I wanted to pick that as my first option or the other one, because I was like, I had this dream about like not dream, like this idea of like me being in this uni, but the other uni is better, so uni is
Yeah.
sorry. I at this point like I kind of asked for guidance, not a guidance like, you know, like a tool, but like the idea of like, oh, like please help me like understand which is better for me. And like we had to do the math exams, and I had to get a certain grade to get in the better uni, and I was like, I'm not gonna stress over it, I'm gonna do my best, and if I do well enough, for me it's kind of like not a sign, but like I ask for me to do either to do well enough to get into the uni or not. And then I got into that, and I was, you know, like I always like in the first year I always questioned that like that decision, but now I'm like I was so much better off doing that. Like I wouldn't have experienced the other one, but like I was so like I gained so much through this experience, and I feel like it was such a better fit. So like for me, I think that I've experienced in a way like the idea of asking for guidance and getting what in the end is right for you, like, and kind of believing that there's something that there's right for you. And I feel like having the belief that you can ask for guidance, and that if you ask for it, then the thing that is best for you will happen, has helped me a lot, like coping with like life and like smaller things and like, you know.
Yeah, I think that the belief that what's right for you is gonna come to you is a helpful one, but for me it doesn't feel very real. It feels more like a made-up tool to make life a bit easier. And I think I'm too much of a skeptic to accept that. I can see how it's helpful for people, and it's advice that has been given to me like multiple times, but I don't think I like buy it, so to speak. I grew up from a Christian Orthodox background, but none of my family is religious, other than like my grandparents. So I think I grew up in a family that was very, you know, just very much using religion as a mechanism to build community and be in touch with tradition rather than spirituality or connection to a higher power. So I think I just took that for granted and didn't really question it throughout. And being in this class, I've thought a lot about meditation, and I've been a bit more open to other tools to reach transcendence. But it seems to me that everything comes down to how can we make this life better? And meditation seems to be a way to work with yourself and understand yourself and be at peace with yourself. And through, you know, trying to see yourself from a third person point of view, that gives you some learnings that can help you in your day to day. So I try to do that. I try to take a lot of guidance from friends or from people that I look up to. But other than that, I can't say that I'm particularly religious or spiritual. And I don't know if that's my way of not wanting the easy way out, thinking that it's the easy way out, which could be a personality thing. Yeah.
Actually, weirdly, this weekend I had a discussion with a friend who was not particularly religious. He's also like a physics major, so he's very like, you know, technical, logical kind of thinking. And he very recently became very like Christian Orthodox, and it was very interesting to see this like kind of switch in him and how he like through learning more about like religion and how it helps has found like kind of an inner peace in that. And I know it could be like, I don't know, like this man-made idea of like coping with like life and death and like issues, but like I feel like if for me it's been like, as for you, it's been the easy way out to not like think about it, not be very religious. For me, because I grew up in it, it's been the easy way out to like take that path and kind of delve into it more as I grew up and like understood like these ideas more deeply. And I'm not saying that it's, I mean, of course you're influenced but like by your surroundings, but like for example my brother is like the other extreme, like he's very not like religious, and again like this friend was not religious and like shifted as he grew up. And yeah, I feel like in our like generation, it's religion is like a topic that's not talked about as much. I mean, there's this new wave of like spirituality, like spirituality being more like cool and like whatever. But I feel like we don't face it, like we don't need it as much as people needed it, because we have more explanations about like our physical surroundings from science that sometimes like they weren't present in the past. But like I feel like people our age especially, like we don't even think about like what it would be like to be religious, or like how we could, like we don't investigate as much and we don't question as much. We question like, we have like questions about how to live life and how to be confident, mental health and all that, but we don't have questions about like religion and how religion could once provide questions to mental health issues that are now very intense, that like possibly like years ago were solved through the idea of believing in higher powers. Like I feel like, yeah, I think it might be connected that like our generation has like more problems with, like, is struggling more with mental health than older generations, and the fact that they were very religious. And I mean, of course it's not like a one-way street, like we like now we're more open about it than we were not, like, you know, but I feel like it might have like a connection there, because it's something that we generally, like, our generation never talks about religion, I feel like.
Yeah. I also feel like our generation like uses religion as a tool. Like, I'll turn to God when I need something, right? Like, and not do any of the ritualistic things, because like that's from the past.
Yeah.
And I think like recently, especially this class, I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, I think I'm almost using religion, right? Like for my own benefit and solely for my own benefit. And I think like that was never the intention of religion. It was supposed to benefit everyone, and you're supposed to think about other people, and you're supposed to like unite people, right? But if I'm only thinking of myself, like, is that like, am I really like, I don't know, just like following my religious or spiritual practice? And I've been recently thinking about like how religion, like, for example, like there's this concept that you're living for God. You're not living for other people necessarily, right? And I was like, okay, let me embrace that. What happens, like, if I do think that way? And honestly, I cared a little bit less about how other people thought, like what they thought of me. I felt like I was showing up differently into the world. Not because, like, I don't really know what it means to live for God per se, but I think just knowing that, like, we're all people, right? Like, I don't have to be someone special, I don't have to do something unique, I don't have to be afraid of another human being, because there's this concept, like, you should only be afraid of God, right? So once I, like, started thinking that way, I felt like I was showing up differently. Like, I was not so scared of people, which was great, right? There are other elements of religion, like, I think sometimes it can humble you. Like, for example, when you accomplish something, who do you credit? Like, if I'm like, oh my god, I'm so great, like, I can't believe I made this accomplishment, I'll be, like, really prideful, right? But if I'm like, you know what, like, anything good that I did, it is God. And, like, you leave it at that. Like, it humbles me. But let's say when something bad happens, I don't really say, oh, it's God's fault, I blame myself. Because I think I like knowing that there's something I could do differently next time, right? So I think, like, religion and spirituality is like what we make of it, and I think recently I've been thinking of it as a way I can show up as my best self, and therefore I can get out of this like dome of just only thinking about myself. You know, like ultimately I want to have more space to think about people, to really like be there for other people, but I can't do that if I'm just like always in my head.
But do you think that religion is necessary to build that mentality? Because I think that you can build that mentality once you reflect on why you do what you do, and by building friendships and being close to your family, value them. A lot of what you do is also for them.
I think also in what you said before, like, we use religion now as a tool to get somewhere. Well, from the, like, religion is about belief. It's not about like getting somewhere. Like, it was only like more recently, like, they perceive religion as, oh, the tool that answers these questions. So if you adopt that, then you have the questions answered, and you don't need to question them. Like, I feel like it's not like that. It's more like actually in your core, what do you believe? Like, I was having a conversation with this friend, and I was like debating on topics that like the Greek Orthodox Church says, and I'm like very like that are very controversial. And like, he was talking to me and he was telling me these things, and he was like, you know, there's not much point of me, like, of us debating this, because this is what I believe. And if you believe, like, it's a much deeper thing than like, I don't know, like making sense in your head. It's like, if you believe that like God provides, like not provides, but like God, like everything around us, kind of like God guides us to do something, or like, yeah, it's a very different perception of the world, like a very different, like a lens through which you perceive your actions, the actions of others, how you perceive others. And I feel like it's not kind of fair to religion to be like, oh, like, yeah, I want to help, like, I need kind of like to be able to cope with some things and like the ideas of like death and like stuff like that, so I'll learn about this religion, kind of adopt this religion, because it's not about that, it's about like actually what you believe. And yeah, I feel like this is what we kind of miss sometimes, that it's, and you can't put it in a logical, like you can't, like also like things that about like the things that I believe, and I've discussed it with many people, like I'm always like, yeah, like you might be right, but this is what I believe, like you can't dispute what you believe, and you can't guide yourself to believe something because it will help you with something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more like, yeah, I feel like it's kind of deeper than that in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get that, yeah. I think, like, also to answer your question, like, is religion the only way to have more belief in yourself, or, like, I don't know, be a better person? Like, absolutely not. Like, I think there's a different path that attracts different people for different reasons. And I think, like, I don't solely rely on religion. I was never religious in my life, right? It's only, like, recently that I'm exploring this, and it's just one way. Like, I feel like watching 10 YouTube YouTube videos might have a similar effect to me, like, going and, like, actually praying, right? And it doesn't mean, it's like almost like experimenting to see which one makes me feel the best at the end. But also I wonder, like, if I'm trying to make myself feel good, am I just using religion at that point, right?
Isn't it kind of crazy that, or at least for me, no aspect in the, like, there's nothing from religion in social media. Like, religion was also used in the past as a mechanism to kind of control the crowds, and now that there are other mechanisms, religion is like so
becomes obsolete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that what I'm missing is probably the community aspect of religion.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, we would go to church, and everybody would be there, and it was my opportunity to get out of the house, and it was really beautiful to hear the like psalms and the songs in church, and like the voice of the priest and everybody singing. It was like a very magical experience, and I think we're really missing that. And I think if you separate religion from the ritualistic element, I don't think it's the same.
Yeah.
Because that ritualistic element, the communal element, is a feeling that empowers you, that inspires you, that makes you feel closer to one another. So the moment you don't have that, because I don't know how many people in our age actually go to church, so the moment you don't have that and you only have books that have been interpreted and reinterpreted and that kind of sell you a specific story of the world, that's very easy to, object to and dismiss.
Yeah.
But if it's a book with a history of learnings that you can apply to your life together with a space and a community, that's very different. So I think that if we don't get back to this more personal and intimate level of coming together in a space and singing or praying, I don't think that religion can exist and be as helpful as it has been. And maybe that's why meditation and spirituality has become so trendy and like sexy, because it's something that
You're just doing your own.
you do your own, or you go in those retreats with other people that do it with you, right? Yeah.
But I feel like also globalization has like shifted kind of that, because I feel like especially in Greece, like Greece was very much shaped around the Greek Orthodox Church, and the community, especially like a grandma's age, like they were all about going to church and like finding people there. I remember my grandma telling me that, my grandpa telling me that his father would be like, oh, go to church to find like a good young girl.
that was the social scene.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like, I feel like the fact that, the idea of a nation has kind of like our nation at least had been shaped around religion. I feel like if you kind of like dismiss that, then the idea of the nation is also kind of the feeling of nationalism, of being one with the people around you, and which already has kind of been dismissed through globalization and everything.
I guess just to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Well, final question.
Really
No, I think this is really great. But just want to hear like, what is one like key mindset like habit that you feel like has shaped you fundamentally your whole life?
And one thing that I think that I've always referred to is that not everything happens for a reason, but like everything, you can get something positive out of everything. Like even if something very bad happens, you can turn to see what positive elements this has brought to your life. And I think that this has like really helped me through like more like tough times, and like especially like when like people in my life have been struggling with something, like seeing what this struggle has brought, like the positive elements, it has like always helped me.
I think for me it's probably the idea that if you set your mind to do something, you will do it. If you really say, I want to achieve this, or I want to reach that point in life where I feel like this, if you really set your mind to it, it will come to you, you will achieve it. Because I think your biggest enemy is yourself, because your mindset is really what determines your day-to-day at times, and our brains are wired to validate our thoughts. So if you're pessimistic, and you're saying, oh, there's no way I'm going to achieve this is never going to come to me, I'm very unlucky in life, your brain works to validate what you think, so you will not achieve it. Whereas if you say, you know what, this is a great day, this is a beautiful day, and you know, I'm gonna make this work, and I feel good about myself today, and I'm gonna do well, it's much more likely that you will do it, and that you will, you know, feel better and happier. So I think for me that has been the biggest learning. If I set my mind to do something, I will do it.
Wow, yeah. I think for me it's like, what's the mindset? It's a feeling. Like, I feel this profound feeling that something big is gonna happen. Or like I'm gonna go really far in life. And like maybe it comes from someone believing in me at some point when I was younger. But it's like, therefore I can't put like a thought to it. But it's just like this deep gut feeling that if I just like, if I fall down, I'll get up again and I'll do it again, and eventually I'll become the person that I really hope to be. And it's just like that, like, I don't know, this like feeling in my heart that's just there, and I feel like even if I'm at my lowest, I know I'll get back up again. And like, I don't know how you can foster that feeling or where that particularly comes from, but it's like a different side of what you're saying. Yeah.
I've also kind of like have this the idea that I'm gonna do things. Like I need to do them, but like yeah.
I think it all comes back to confidence.
Let's go. Okay. I love the conversation.